This legislation today is deeply disappointing. As a parent, as someone who's spoken to thousands of parents over the past year and as the official opposition education critic, what we're seeing is Doug Ford and Stephen Lecce bullying the lowest paid education workers, driving them out of the education system and putting our kids' education at risk. At the end of the day, it's our kids who are going to pay the price, and it's the kids who have the highest needs for accessibility and supports who pay the greatest price. And I think that is incredibly telling about this government. And I'm happy to take your questions.
What do you make of the government using the notwithstanding clause again?
I think it's incredibly chilling. This isn't the first time we've seen this from this government, that when they don't get their own way, they're prepared to run roughshod over the rights of workers and students. I think it speaks to the extent to which this legislation is a bullying tactic.
They say they're doing it, though, to prevent disruptions in schools. I mean, don't students deserve a year without disruptions? Do they not have a point there?
Absolutely. And I mean, parents remember which government it was that shut down schools for 27 weeks during the pandemic. The problem is that we're already seeing disruptions because of worker shortages. We're already seeing situations where one EA is being asked to support 6 kids, where schools don't have custodians or ECEs to fill positions. And this government is telling workers who already can't afford to do their job that they're only going to pay them a nickel an hour more. So we're going to continue to see these kinds of disruptions. In fact, we're going to see more because workers can't afford to work in this sector any longer.
So the bill has some fines for illegal strikes, and they're quite onerous. They're $4,000 per the individual and $500,000 for the union. We did some quick math, and that if all of them go on strike on Friday, it could cost QB millions of dollars. What do you make of that prospect of seeing such a big union get sort of fined into oblivion if they go on strike?
Well, we're still analyzing all the elements of the bill ourselves. We just saw it too. But I think, once again, this speaks to the fact that the legislation is ultimately a bullying tactic. And this government is bullying the lowest paid education workers, predominantly women. It's bullying the people who support our kids day in and day out. And primarily, it's bullying the people who support our kids who need supports the most day in and day out. And at the end of the day, it's these workers and their kids, and it's our kids in school who need these supports who are going to pay the price for this government's bully tactics.
Is there anything that can stop this government? It has a massive majority, and it's willing to use the notwithstanding clause. So what can possibly be done?
Stephen Lecce's conscience? The minister's holding all the cards here. He's got 4 days to come to the table with a deal that actually ensures that workers can come to work day in and day out and support our kids without having to use food banks, that workers will stay in the system, and that our kids will get the supports they need without further disruptions to their education.
There are a lot of workers in Ontario who are low paid, and they will not be getting an 11.7% increase in their salary, an annual increase. So how do you support that particular ask?
We have already seen the consequences of a situation where workers have to use food banks and work multiple jobs to make ends meet. And the reality is that they are leaving the sector despite the fact that they love the work that they do and they feel committed to our kids. We are already seeing shortages throughout the sector, and workers are telling us they simply cannot continue to afford to work in this sector if they have to use food banks. And so if the government wants to follow through on its promise of stability and supports for our kids, then the government is going to have to come to the table with a deal that means these workers can afford to work in the sector, that they don't have to use food banks.
What message do you think this sends to the other education unions currently in bargaining right now?
I think it shows that the government is not actually prepared to do what it takes to give our kids a stable year and make sure that they have all the supports that they need. I think it shows that the government is more interested in being a bully than in actually supporting our kids. At the end of the day, it's our kids, it's the parents, and it's the workers throughout the system who pay the price for that.
Does the NDP support the idea of going on a protest/strike on Friday?
Look, we have 4 days until there's a protest/strike. The minister is the one holding all the cards here. The minister can come to the table at any time over the next 4 days with a deal that prevents disruptions to our kids, and that's what I am begging him to please do.
Thank you for going.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.